Hello and welcome to this continuing first look exploring session looking at Albertus Wallenstein by Henry Glapthorne, a play printed in 1639 and performed at some point prior to then, but I don't really know precisely when. I don't think anyone knows precisely when. Opinions vary, sometime in the previous 4 or 5 years. Sometime during the time he was writing other plays. He did write other plays, and that's about all I know. We're very much at the end of our dating range. We only go up to 1642 officially. In fact, we've got a few plays lined up where we might be in the borderline, where we might technically be doing a play from the interregnum, but we're not sure. We think it's from 1642. Anyway, we're very much at the end, rather than a lot of the plays we're doing recently, which have been at the beginning of the 17th century. We've sort of jumped forward 30 years to just see what the water's like, just dipping a toe, just seeing how it goes. Also, the play's quite short and has a relatively small cast, so it fitted quite well this week. So, reading from Act 3, Scene 3 onwards today, reading Frederick, Leslie, Page, and Illawe is
Alan in Suffolk.
Reading Wallenstein and Hungary is Sarah.
I'm sorry. Sarah Blake in Germany.
Reading Isabella, Tertski, Gordon, and Messenger is...
Hello, my name is Lynn Freitas. I'm coming to you from the northwestern United States.
Reading Newman, Albertus, Butler, and Questenburg is...
Aliki, Chapple, currently in Athens.
And reading Kintski, Duchess, and Emperor is...
Carolyn, Dougherty, first-timer in Bristol.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions. I may jump in if there are any overt clashes. Just to warn you, I've got a note here that there are some slight clashes, so you may occasionally talk to yourself, silly voices as required. But I don't think it happens very often. Act 3, Scene 3 is where we're starting. We're going to start with the son of Wallenstein. Wallenstein's first name is actually Albertus, so this is Albertus the Younger. Wallenstein Jr. Enters alone.
To be in love, nay, to be so in love, to put off all our reason and discourse, which does distinguish us from savage beasts, to dote upon a face which, like a mirror, sullied by any breath, by the least sickness grows pale and ghastly. Is not this mere madness? Why should it inhabit here then? Sure the soul, as 'tis a spirit of a subtle essence, a form as thin and pure as is an angel's, can ne'er be author of these wild desires, so opposite to its natures. They're all fleshly, sordid, as is the clay this frame's composed of. Shall the soul, the noble soul, be slave to these wild passions and bow beneath their weight?
Enter Isabella.
Isabella, all reason, sense, and soul are in her looks. There's no discourse beyond them. Cruel, fair one, are you still resolute to persist in your strange tyranny and scorn my constant love?
Do not, sir, abuse that sacred title, which saints and powers celestial glory in, by ascribing it to your loose desires. Pray rather clothe them in their own attribute. Term them your lust, sir, your wild, irregular lust, which, like those fire drakes, misguiding nighted travelers, will lead you forth of a fair path of your fame and virtue to unavoided ruin.
This is coyness, a cunning coyness, to make me esteem at a high rate that jewel which you seem to part from so unwillingly. Merchants use it to put bad wares away. Dear Isabella, think what excessive honor thou shalt reap in the exchange of one poor trivial gem, and that but merely imaginary, a voice and insubstantial essence. Yet for that thou shalt have real pleasures, such as queens prone to delicious luxury would covet to sate their appetites. Think, Isabella, that hardest marble, though not cut by force, by Oft diffusion of salt drops is brought into whatever form the carver's fancy before had destined it. Your heart's that substance, and will, by frequent oratory of tears, be brought to wear the perfect stamp, the figure of my affection on it.
Thus besieged, it is high time I summon up my virtue, all that is good about me, to assist my resolution. Sir, I would be loath that you should see me angry. 'Tis a passion my modesty is unacquainted with. Yet in this cause, dear to me as my honor, I needs must chide your passion. Consider, look what a precipice of certain ruin your violent will, as on some dangerous rock that strikes where they are dashed upon it in pieces, has cast your heedless youth upon. My lord, why should you venture your whole stock of goodness upon forbidden merchandise, a prize which the most barbarous pirates to the laws of moral honesty would fear to seize on, both for its sanctity and trivial value?
I'm thunderstruck.
What a foolish thief, my lord, would rob an altar, be guilty of the sacrilege to gain a brazen censer. Why should you then affect a sin so great as spoiling me of honor for such a poor gain as the satisfying of your sensual appetite? Think, my good lord, the pleasures you so covet are but like flattering mornings that show the rising sun in his full brightness, yet do ere night bury his head in tempests.
I'm disenchanted. All the charms are fled that hung like mists about my soul and robbed it of the fair light of virtue. Excellent angel, you have the power and goodness as shall teach wonder, that child of ignorance, a faith no woman can be bad. I do confess, beg with the rage of my intemperate lust, I came to blast your purity, but am become its perfect convert, so reclaimed by your best goodness from these foul intentions, hell hath not strength enough to tempt my frailty to the like wild looseness. Pray, sweet, forgive me. Seal it with one chaste kiss, and henceforth let me adore you as the savor of my honor, my truth and fame's preserver.
I am glad I have wrought this reclamation on your folly, and trust me, I shall ever love this in you, though my more humble thoughts shall now aspire to affect your person.
Had you but yielded to my desires, been no whit virtuous, I should have esteemed you, my looser heat by your consent extinguished, but as a fair house haunted with goblins, which none will enter to possess, and blessed me from the prodigious building, when now, big with the chaste assurance of your virtue, I do beseech you by your love, your mercy, look on my innocent love, more spotless than are the thoughts of babes, which ne'er knew foulness. Accept me for your husband. Start not, lady. By your fair self, I mean it. Do entreat it as my extent of happiness.
This, my lord, is too extreme on the other side. As much too mean I hold myself to be your wife, as my own fame and honor did esteem me too good to be your prostitute. My lord, the wiving vine that about the friendly elm twines her soft limbs, and weaves a leafy mantle for her supporting lover, dares not venture to mix her humble boughs with the embraces of a more lofty cedar. Twixt us two is the same difference. Love, my lord, and hope a nobler choice, a lady of your own rank. All the ends of my poor ambition shall ever aim, shall be to love your worth, but ne'er aspire to your nuptials.
You're too humble. Impose too mean a value on a gem kings would be proud to wear. Dear Isabella, let not thy modest sweetness interpose a new impediment twixt my lawful flames and thy own vestal chastity. Let not fear, to thy sex incident, of my father's wrath stagger thy resolution. Thou shalt be to me, my father, mother, brother, friend, my all of happiness. If we cannot here in peace enjoy our wishes, we will love like turtles in a desert, only blessed in one another's company.
And there we'll pause. Some people are about to enter the stage. I'm not sure if Isabella actually exits at this point or not. I mean, I would if I was hearing some of the stuff he was saying. I mean, it's the point when it's the part I think the bit I found most disturbing was when he was saying, if you'd consented to have sex with me, you would be but as a fair house haunted with goblins. I mean, is that a metaphor for an? I don't even know what to make of that. I mean, wow. I mean, he hasn't changed since we met him in the earlier scene, has he? He's exactly the same as he was earlier, and it's to a degree the same argument. It's just sort of taken up a gear. Last time was quite brief, whereas this is a lengthy thing, and he just keeps. Thoughts from the room? Who wants to leave it on this one? Lynn and then Carolyn.
I find this unpersuasive in the first place. I mean, I realize, I've got the lens of a 21st century, somebody who came of age during the sexual revolution, but God, I really hate this ethic. Like, if you say no, you get what you want. And like, a woman's really not allowed to know her own mind. I don't know. I find this so problematic.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it's also that, in a sense, I know who Albertus is. I know exactly who Albertus is. His characterization is quite good. I have no idea who Isabella is here, actually. These are all sentiments. These are all arguments,
right.
But there isn't necessarily character here.
So boilerplate. Yeah. You don't really know whether... I mean, she says something in their first encounter that she does love him, but it is a pretty brief mention. So you don't really know whether she's continuing to hold out to kind of test him, and she really does hope to marry him in the end, or she just doesn't really like him and is making excuses to get rid of him. You don't know what she wants, and the play doesn't seem to care.
Yeah, and it's because her, I mean, she's in a very compromised position as well, because she is from a different status, and she understands the status is a gap is a problem, whereas he. Obviously, being in the higher status, doesn't care because it doesn't really matter to him. Anyway, sorry, Carolyn, muted at present.
I was just going to say, I love how he's like, I've reformed and you've convinced me. Give me a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Which she doesn't do. But I did want to say it is actually really intriguing to point out that the women in this story don't have a character. They are just props for this. Although I do want to say, I think it was problematic then too. From my reading at that time, I think audiences would have been just as critical of Albertus then as we are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when we had the earlier scenes with Amelia, who is going through a similar process as this, but is of a higher status, and we were sort of debating whether it's almost like they're both going through the motions of what they're expected to say, and there's a whole sequence to it, and it feels automatic, and I'm wondering if that's a deliberate thing, or if it's just lazy writing and just fitting to formula, or whether we could make it something. There's part of me that wonders whether Isabella should just be on a cardboard cutout on wheels with a speaker embedded, because we've been here before with a few plays where you're sort of going, that would actually be quite an interesting scene, whereas I'm not sure with actual people this is an interesting scene. I mean, it has many interesting things about it, but I'm not sure as drama as what the playwright is trying to do it is necessarily interesting in that way. I am interested in it. Other thoughts in the room? Anyone else? We're mid-scene, so we can pick up where this is going, because this is part of a wider scene. Let's gather a bit more data. So we have the stage direction of just enter Frederick and Newman.
Why, look you, sir. Yonder's the cock of the game, about to tread your ginny hen. Oh, they're billing. Shall we retire, my lord? Perhaps they're going to it, and 'twould be a shame to spoil their sport.
I'm resolved. I'll speak to him.
Your pleasure must be accomplished. But take heed, we draw not the Virgin's curse on us both. Take heed on't, it will fall heavy. Surprised And by my brother, prithee, sweet, withdraw. I would not have thy timorous ears freighted with his loud anger.
Save you, brother. You parted with your mistress. They tell me, does she kiss well? Has she a fragrant lip? Are her demeanours courtly, apt to ravish? Are you resolved to run away with her, to stain the honour of our family, for her sweet sake?
Gentle brother, you speak a language I nor understand, nor value much the meaning. In your love I meddled not, and had it been manners in you not to have intruded upon mine, your presence being unrequired.
You are very confident, young gallant. Defence of your brave mistress. I know you're in love, bravely in love, with a trim chambermaid, a thing made up of a cast taffety gown of an old wardrobe. Degenerate brother, were I not assured of your chaste mother's virtues, I should question whether my father got you. But I'm come to disenchant thy senses from the charms that hateful witch throws on them, but resolve quickly to hit her, quit her, or by heaven she'd better commit with lightning.
Pray, good brother, use your threats upon your corporals, or stamp at your tame lancaprisados when they do not perform your charge. Your rage upon your boys were more becoming than upon your brother. If you will sit, and with attentive patience mark what I shall deliver, I will give you reasons for my intentions. But if not, you may depart unsatisfied.
Well, sir, be brief. I shall attend you.
In brief, I love fair Isabella, so as honor, not the vicious heat of youth, commands me to affect. I love her virtue, and have in that as noble, rich a dowry as the addition of estate and blood, which you have acquired in your late happy match with young Amelia.
Dare you, boy, name her? And my Amelia as parallels?
Why, good brother, though she transcends her birth and fortunes, yet in the rare endowments of her mind, she is her equal. Virtue has a soul as precious in peasants as in princes. 'Tis a birthright none can deprive them of, who truly have it. 'Tis so with Isabella.
You do intend to marry her?
Yes, brother.
She's a whore.
'Tis a most scandalous lie, and on your heart I'll prove her chaste and virtuous as Amelia, as your Amelia.
How at you?
And they fight. Enter Tertski, Kintski, Newman, Illawe, etc.
Help to beat down their swords, my lords. Dad, Frederick, Albertus, what do you mean? Let's beat them both. Kurt, I think you're drunk with Lübeck's beer or Brunswick's mum.
For shame, put up your angry weapons.
How fell you out, gentlemen? How fell you out?
Sorry. It was a sad misfortune, nor would I it should arrive onto our general's notice, or half my earldom. Last, my lord, you bleed.
No matter, my blood could ne'er in more holy use have been employed. Now the heat's over, do you both think yourselves a pair of coxcombs? Come shake hands. I will make you both stark drunk, but I will have you good friends again. Brothers, fall out. For shame, brothers, fall out.
And they exit. End of Act 3. Okay. Some stuff happened. Didn't really go anywhere, but it sort of happened. It's odd. So yeah, the brother comes in and tries to give some brotherly advice, and then goes off the deep end, and they have a fight, and then Newman just breaks them up. I think the most interesting thing for me was just I'm quite interested in Lübeck's beard and Brunswick's mum. I'm curious as to what particular ale houses are producing those. That seems like a very specific reference, and that's the kind of thing a clown can do, is just suddenly randomly put in a probably topical beer. Then go from there. Other thoughts. Alan.
I'm not sure friendly brotherly advice is quite the tone of it. It looked to me like an ongoing sibling argument, and there are mentions in the chat of possible modern analogues.
Yeah, but they might have died down by the time this video is actually released, and or it turned into actual open warfare. Lynn.
Yeah, we don't even know for sure who's the elder brother. So who stands to inherit Wallenstein's dukedom? I mean, I guess we're assuming it's his namesake, but the older son wasn't always the namesake. I mean, Charles II wasn't Charles I's older son. So yeah, sometimes the father would wait until later in his fathering of children to do a namesake. So and that kind of matters. It wouldn't matter so much if one of them was marrying a waiting gentlewoman and one of them was marrying the daughter of a head of state. If the daughter of the head of state was going to become the Duchess, oh well, what does it matter? It matters less what the younger brother is doing. But on the other hand, why would if Frederick's not the heir, why would that other duke have offered her his daughter? This play's not telling me everything I need to know, I feel like.
No, I suspect Frederick is the older brother. Because he's been given there's been an official match made for him. He also says you are very confident young gallant at one point, so it does suggest that he's talking down to a younger brother. That's not an absolute. That's just appeared in the chat as well. We're doing well. We're all in accord, but it may be that's a joke or something that we're not getting. Aliki.
Frederick's the emperor's name, I think. So it would make sense that in the early years of the general's career, he would have named his elder son flatteringly after
Good
the head of
point.
state.
Yeah. As Charles I had named his elder son Henry after the founder of the previous dynasty.
I think the emperor's called Ferdinand, actually.
I thought it was Frederick the Great.
I will just no, Ferdinand II.
Oh, I take it back.
Because his son's called Ferdinand as well, just to really confuse us.
Oh well, so much for my argument.
Theory too.
But these things are important, and it is important that the play isn't quite giving us this data, is it? Or at least the script isn't. I mean, I'm sure in performance, once you've cast it and you know who who they cast in the original production, would tell you who they are in relation, probably. Other thoughts from this, because it's the fact that it doesn't really go anywhere. They have a fight and then it's broken up and says, "I'll get you drunk until you're friends again." It's like, so why did we have it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem to be part of a plot. It just happens.
If we'd actually had the betrothal of Albertus Jr. and Isabella, there's a plot point. There's something that might matter, but that doesn't even really happen. That's still up in the air. And then the fight comes to again, what even is this scene doing here?
I have to say I'm not enthralled with the love subplots. I'm interested in them. I'm much more interested in the power politics, even if the power politics isn't exactly excitingly presented to us. I'm slightly frustrated because when this play first started, it was all really purple and flowery, and I was sort of enjoying it, and I was going, yeah, this is cool. And then these plot lines aren't going anywhere, and it's sort of weird. It's like the betrayal plot line has got so convoluted. I don't know what's happening there either. It's hard to be excited about that as well. God damn it, Glapthorne. I just like saying his name. Okay. Let's go into Act 4. Maybe we will move forward in a more productive fashion. Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Wallenstein, Frederick, and Duchess.
Can this be possible?
To the truth, and if your high authority countermand not his fond intentions, he will wed her, dishonour our great family.
Call him hither. I shall instruct the gallant youth his duty.
But good my lord, do not with too severe a harshness chide the error of his love, lest like a crystal stream which unopposed runs with the smooth brow gently in its course, being stopped to the sudden, his calm nature riot into wilful fury, and persist in his intended fancy.
Gentle madam, teach your women how to dress you. Here are none do need your presence or instruction. You would have him leap your neat chambermaid and get a monkey for you to play withal. He is here. Pray, you depart. Frederick, attend your mother. I would be private.
Everybody exits apart from Wallenstein. Enter Albertus.
Your Grace was pleased to send for me.
I did so. Know you the cause?
Not yet, my lord.
I am your father, sir, whose frowns you ought to tremble at, whose anger should be as dreadful to you as heaven's curses. Look on my face and read my business there.
Alas, my lord, your looks are discomposed with rage. Your fiery eyes roll with the accustomed motion they had wont to dart upon your enemies. I am assured my innocence can in no way merit your all-consuming anger.
'Tis a lie, a worthless lie, false as thy flattering hopes are. You are in love, most gallantly in love, with Isabella, one who is composed of paint and plasters, thou degenerate monster, traitor to fame and parasite to honour, abject in thy condition as thy thoughts are. Tear this vile strumpet from thy soul. Do it quickly. Renounce her with all binding ties can urge thee to keep thy faith, or I will quite put off the name of father. Take as little notice thou art of my offspring as the surly north does of the snow, which, when it has engendered its wild breath, scatters through the earth forgotten.
This was the killing fever I still feared. Sir, I should be a stranger to your blood as well as noble worth should I commit actions I shamed to justify. I confess I love fair Isabella, and beseech you, the meanness of her fortune and her birth omitted, she may be conferred upon me in lawful marriage.
Dare you, boy, speak this to me?
I should, sir, be degenerate from your great spirit, should I fear to utter what I do wish affected. Were you a god, as being my father, you're but a degree to me beneath one, in a cause so righteous, I should not only boldly crave your license, but hope to have it granted.
Hell and furies! Dost any mortal fool but mine own issue venture to brave my fury thus? Resolve, villain, in full to satisfy my purpose. Do it without regret. Renounce this strumpet even from thy soul. Abandon her remembrance, or, by mine own unwearied valour, better and with more safety thou mayst hug a wave when its white lips kiss heaven. Young sir, your honour is not your own. For it, you're but my factor, and must give me account, a strict account, of the errors you run in. To the dust of my great ancestors stand I accountant for all my family, and their blessed ashes would break their marble lodgings, and come forth to quarrel with me, should I permit this bar to stain their glorious heraldry.
Great sir, can virtue be a blemish, or true worth disgrace nobility? 'Twas that at first, when nature made all equal, did distinguish twixt man, and gave a just precedence to the most worthy. Honor is virtue's offspring. Since then, the angel my affections fixed on is fair and virtuous. All the good that ever durst with frail flesh commix or earth be proud of, how to our family's honor can she bring a diminution? Can, sir, the chaste ice kissed by the sun into its native substance pollute a crystal river? Surely rather it adds fresh moisture to its stream. My lord, I am your son and have been still obedient to your commands. Oh, by your love, your virtue, your never daunted virtue, I beseech you, grant me this one request. Were it for my life, I should not be so abject as to spend this breath for its redemption.
Well, thy prate has overcome me. I am pitiful beyond my nature, pitiful to thee. Thou shalt enjoy thy wishes.
All the blessings prayers can obtain from heaven shower down upon you for your superlative mercy.
Stay and mark me. It shall be with this condition, that as soon as thou art wed and hast enjoyed thy wishes, ere the next sun rise on you, you resolve without remorse to kill your Isabella.
Heavens protect me.
Nay, thou shalt swear it too. Last gentle boy, I know thy nature is too full of fire to mix with sordid earth. And though thy last, which is but manhood in thee, prompt thee on to taste the sweets of Isabella's beauty, I know thou scornst so much to unmake thy gentry to take her for thy wife. Perhaps she will not give up her honour till the church has sealed that grant as lawful. Freely I allow her brave ambition, if, as a reward due her haughty pride, thy own hands kill her, and so wipe out the infamy.
Strange cruelty. So tyrants used to grant offenders life after their condemnation, to reserve them to combat wild beasts in the spacious circa or bloody amphitheatre. My lord!
Pish! I am death, inexorable as seas to the prayers of mariners when their sinking keel is drunk with billows.
Enter Duchess, Isabella, and Page.
Oh, my lord, your justice on this cursed witch, this thief. This morning I have lost out of my cabinet the so much valued jewel which your bounty bestowed upon me. None but she and I having been there since. She must be the thief. Force her to restitution.
'Twas a gem my mother gave me, which I did preserve with as much care as votaries do the relics of their protecting saints. I gave it you when, in the eager fervour of my youth, I destined you my wife. Come hither, minion, you who can steal the jewels of men's hearts with your enchanting sorceries, will not fear to make a venture upon pettier theft. Sirrah, go. Bid them wait me here.
My lord, I am so secure in mine own innocence that should your fury riot on my life, 'twould not affright me. I should meet my death as willingly as I should do my rest after a tedious watching. There's no armor like that of innocence with which I am guarded, and therefore laugh at punishment.
So brave! I shall soon quell your insolence. Lay hands on this ignoble strumpet. Hang her up, here, in my presence.
Enter a guard.
Stay, sir. I do beseech you. Hear me.
Your entreaties are cast on me as fools throw oil on fire, striving to extinguish it. Hang her up! I'll hang you all else.
Then, sir, I will speak, since you forget to be a father to me. I will put off my duty. I'm resolved, since it's impossible that we should live, to die together. Nor do not, slave, presume to touch this mine of purity. 'Tis a treasure. While I'm alive, hell cannot ravish from me, for fiends would fear to touch it. If you murder this spotless, innocent virgin, you are so merciless a tyrant, as do love to feed on your own bowels. One whom nature created for a curse, and to get curses, such prodigies as I am. One whom all lovers shall tremble at. If I mentioned one, it meant one.
Death! Have I lost my command? Is he or I to be obeyed? Hang her! If he resist, kill the unnatural traitor.
Dear Albertus, draw not a ruin on thy priceless life for my despised sake. I will go to death all peace, as does an anchorite that's assured his sins of all his sins forgiveness.
Saucy devil, carry that touch of her to hell. 'Twill serve to mitigate thy tortures.
Is run through, kills one of the guards.
Oh, my lord, what has your fury acted? Dear Albertus.
'Twas a most friendly hand, and I could kiss it for the most welcome benefit. Isabella, in death thou givest me life. Thy innocence will, like my guardian angel, safely convey me to yonder heavenly mansion. Pray forgive me, dear sir, if in my over-hasty zeal in this poor innocent's quarrel, my wild fury transgressed my natural duty, and as the last request your dying son can ask, take pity on this most innocent maid. Thy hand, my fair one, and now as willingly I do expire as a blessed martyr who does court the fire. Oh, Isabella.
And Albertus dies.
Oh, my dear Albert.
Death, slave? Dare you play with a flame that shall consume you? Hang her up, or torments shall pay your breach of duty.
There, friend, there's all the jewel I am mistress of, and that thou meritst. Prithee, be as speedy in thy dispatch as fate itself. There is a pure white ghost in yon same azure cloud expects me straight. I come, my dear Albertus.
Isabella is hanged.
Take hence their bodies. 'Twas a hopeful boy, and one I loved well, till his wild love made him forget his duty. And 'tis better he died with fame, his sword in his hand, than that he lived with foul dishonour. Would he were alive again. I do begin to feel strange horrors here. And that big guest, my soul is shaken as with nipping frost. Oh, hence, idle grief! I must be furnished with more sprightly passions. Thou art too heavy, fit for the society of none but pensive women. All must die. Why should not he, then? 'Twas his destiny.
And exeunt. And at last, people have started killing each other, and we're all suddenly just enjoying it so much more, aren't we? And yeah, I mean, suddenly, like some drama walked in and said, "Hi, have you met tragedy?" It's what was on the letterhead on the door. So yeah, so interesting structural questions, because the previous scene had ended with Albertus and Frederick exiting at the end of the scene, and then at the beginning of Act 4, Frederick comes straight back on, suggesting that maybe this was designed for indoor performance rather than outdoor, that there are act breaks that might be covered with, just a bit of running around the corner very quickly, maybe some music playing, so it could run through relatively straightforwardly. That's not a massive structural problem, but it's just an interesting thing to note. Or alternatively, there is a scene missing from some subplot. It's not the longest play in the universe, so maybe there were trims before it got printed. But yeah, we have this exchange between Albertus and Wallenstein, and we were sort of liking Wallenstein for a lot of yesterday, and then we made a few excuses for his slightly dodgy views on how he on his wife and women in general. But he wasn't really particularly homicidal. It has to be said. He really was thinking about his political shifts, and he wasn't saying let's just kill everyone. And now he's sort of really gone to the extreme, and yeah, this is quite extreme. And yeah, heaven help me, I really enjoyed it. Okay, Alan, then Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, the act break that we've got noted at the end of Act 3 does actually make sense, to have a gap for Frederick to actually go and find Daddy and spill the beans on his brother.
Oh yeah, the scenes don't run into each other. There absolutely is a temporal shift, but you've got to mark it somehow, because he's got to come on and come back on again. Sarah, then Aliki.
I was pretty much gonna say what you've just said. I'm really enjoying the fact that yesterday, in the first session, we were talking of him as this sort of bluff, sort of slightly one eyebrow raised, sort of Brian Blessed type figure. And then halfway through the session, it was like, oh, actually, he's a bit dodgy. Like, the way he's treating women is not nice. And this is, okay, right, we're seeing a different side of him. And now, oh my God, we've not just seen a different side of him. We've seen, like, a different 8 sides of him all wrapped up in one, and I'm actually now it's just so enjoyable the way the dynamic has changed, because now Leslie, who we still don't know whether he's actually going to murder him or not, that whole plot line of like, is he going to murder Wallenstein, is he not, suddenly we've got some skin in the game, because actually now after that scene I'm like, yeah, well, I was feeling quite sorry for him yesterday, but now he's got it coming.
Yeah, and how, isn't it? And it sort of pays off for the scenes that we had with Isabella and Albertus. You know, now they feel like they have a function, whereas earlier I was sort of going, I'm not sure about any of this, and I'm still not sure about how it plays out. But at least they are giving time to people who they are going to kill, and therefore we feel for them. Whereas if we hacked all that stuff out, there'd just be some people on stage who die. Aliki.
So I was pretty much going to say that, although also in terms of, and now we understand what that fight with his brother was about. It was about showing us that he really is willing to go up against all of the sacred bonds of a noble family in order to do right by Isabella. So, in the chat, the question appeared, who made Wallenstein do it? I think now we see that his motivation all along has been arrogance, has been an overwhelming sense of what is due to him and his position.
Lynn, then Sarah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty annoyed with the author and the way he portrays and treats women. I mean, Wallenstein has been really dismissive and to his Duchess. It's like, oh yeah, I told you were beautiful, but you know, I wanted to get some. And here she's like, don't be too hard on my son, and he's like, don't tell me how to be a parent. Go do lady things. Okay, that's kind of consistent. But then she comes on and says, I think this woman stole one of my best jewels, one that you gave me. It's like, what? Either she's on Wallenstein's side and that's a setup, or it's a really ham-fisted MacGuffin on the writer's part. I that just sort of was really quite awkward. That so he has an excuse to hang her for theft. Like, he needs an excuse. He's a tyrant. He's a psycho.
Sarah.
Yeah, I just also wanted to add that I found that scene proper shocking. And I probably would have found it even more so had I not been reading it. Like, because neither of these people, I mean, I know a lot of people die in tragedies who don't deserve to die, but it comes out of nowhere and it escalates so quickly. And you know, Albertus is actually, you know, being noble. And he gets slaughtered for it, and Isabella's done nothing wrong, and it's over so quickly, and it's just so meaningless. And I think that thing that you were just saying, Lynn, about the Duchess, I suspect, I don't know, who knows, I could be proved wrong, but I suspect we're not going to hear that much from the Duchess in the future. In which case you could actually, even if it was a terrible MacGuffin on the part of the writer, you could play it that she's sort of, even though he sent her out of the room, you could stage it so that she's kind of loitering in the background listening, and she's thinking to herself, oh, I need to end this quarrel between father and son, so I'm just going to accuse her, and then he's got an excuse to kill her. And of course she doesn't realize, you know, what the consequences of her actions are going to be, but it would make her a bit more of an interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, it's. We were talking yesterday about sort of surfaces. I mean, I'm sort of reading this very much in a sort of Doyleist way. I'm looking at the structure from a distance and what's going on here. There's an awful lot of stuff that's just sort of happening because, and we are scrabbling about to build reasons and to build characters on a text that isn't necessarily very interested in it. And there's a sense of what the Duchess is doing there is because they just need to bring the Isabella on and accuse her of something. I'm curious about Isabella's line, "Their friend, there's all the jewels I am mistress of." Is that just kissing the corpse of
I think
Albert
she's kissing
or
him
something?
goodbye.
It's just, in terms of the logistics of her being hanged, I was sort of, at that moment, I thought she should be sort of halfway up a ladder by that point. But clearly not. Lynn.
Yeah, I think that here's the only jewel that I own, and then in the middle of a line, she turns to her prospective executioners.
Yeah, pretty be
yeah, there's a comma. There's not even a full stop.
Yeah,
Prithee,
I suspect that should be a semicolon.
Yeah.
That's probably how I'll repunctuate it.
Yeah, I put a period. Actually, that's the end of her. I'm a writing teacher. Because New Thought turns to the soldiers, "Be as speedy in thy dispatch as fate itself." Because my honey is waiting for me in the clouds.
Yeah. Even though from the dialogue we had earlier, how much of that she's really his honey, and that's just contrasting with Frederick, who dobs in it. His brother betrays him. So there's a question of betrayal in this, and Frederick, who's done the wooing by the book, who has done what he's expected of him. We were talking about modern parallels in earlier, and these things are getting more and more. We may need to go there later. But we'll continue being oblique for the moment. Let's go forward into Act 4, Scene 2, as we are reintroduced to Leslie, Gordon, and Butler, our Scottish mercenaries. You don't have to attempt an accent.
Are all your horse in readiness?
Yes, 'tis time that we were mounted. 'Tis 4 leagues at least unto the general's camp, and 'twill be late ere we arrive there. Are you yet resolved upon the means by which to put in practice our long-intended purpose? Our delay will make the emperor apt to call in question our faith's integrity.
So great a business is not with easy speed to be performed, and eager haste oft-times o'erthrows the fortunes of such affairs. If we once get him hither, within our city walls, be confident he's in his grave. But have you given command that all your soldiers be in readiness to wait the general's entry?
They shall be in their best furniture of arms, all drawn into parada. He shall have all pomp, an ornament of war, to bid him welcome.
These triumphs shall be but funeral pomps before his death. Gordon, you must, as governor of Eggers, present the keys with all humility to his dispose. 'Twill make him be more careless, and trust his very soul into our hands.
Doubt not me. I shall perform with cunning skill whatever belongs to me. But do you intend the general alone shall fall, or his confederates shall perish with him?
Oh, by all means. Indian princes did carry slaves to wait on them into the other world. 'Twere inglorious that our brave general should not have that privilege. Count Tertski, Kintski, Newman, Marshal Illawe shall be his harbingers, and the shades below provide fit entertainment for his ghost.
They are of power. Their deaths will shrewdly weaken the strength of the conspiracy.
Very true. I'll craftily instill into his ears new causes of distrust, so to beget in him more confidence of my faith. So to allure him hither sooner, we must work surely as does the mole, who digs her habitation in the earth and scorns all the assaults of tempests. When he's in, we must be prompt in action, sure of hand and sound of heart, and strike him with that violence from the supposed heavens his ambitions climb to, that the thin air doth from its purer regions dull earthly meteors. Come, let's away. Naught crosses actions like a dull delay.
And they exit. So, I think we've got a sense of Leslie's plan here. He's still going to do what the Emperor wants, but he's managed to get the trust of Wallenstein by saying the Emperor wants me to kill you. Kind of logic, maybe. But yeah, they've got a plan, and for once, we sometimes people don't don't take out the supporters of people. No, they're gonna take out everyone. They're gonna take out absolutely everyone. So yeah, that's bad things going to happen. Okay, now we can work on the assumption that probably most people are going to die on that list. Not necessarily everyone. Does anyone think any of those people on that list will survive? You know, I think we can safely say Wallenstein's probably dead. But do we think any of the others will survive? Alan?
I have a sneaking suspicion that Newman is the likeliest to survive on the basis that he's an experienced old soldier.
I'd say he's more likely to survive because he's the clown. It's rare it has been done. Sometimes the clown gets killed, but it doesn't happen often. So that's true. Okay, on the other side, do we think Leslie, Gordon, and Butler are going to survive? Because we know that the murderers themselves often get taken out. Who thinks Leslie et al. Will survive? Oh, only Leslie. Only Sarah thinks Leslie.
Well,
yeah, Sarah.
yeah, I only say that because my initial thought was, yeah, no, they're not going to survive. But then they're not your usual tragic villains. You know, I was saying this in the first session. That they're sort of the fact that they are mercenaries, they're presumably quite well. Clearly, Leslie is really good at what he does because he's managed to get everybody's trust. So I don't know. I can actually envisage a situation where Leslie, maybe not the others, but maybe Leslie wriggles his way out of this. But I mean, I would expect the Emperor to have them all killed once they've done his bidding, but I don't know. He's been such a tricky, ambiguous character so far. I think he might make it. Who knows?
Aliki, then Lynn. Then we'll move on.
I don't quite know where history intersects with tragedy here. So, you know, history has a way of being less tidy than drama. So perhaps they won't or will. I don't really know.
Lynn.
I think it's weird that there's no mention of assassinating Wallenstein's family. They probably don't even know that Albertus is dead. So they don't say anything, oh yeah, and we'll have to take his sons out too. Because if they live, they'll want to avenge their father, you would think. So I just feel like that's a weird omission.
Okay, right. Well, we haven't finished Act 4, so you know, maybe that was a premature question, but you know, I like to see where people think the thing is going, especially those who haven't read ahead. Act 4, Scene 3. Enter Wallenstein Solus.
To be diseased in mind, diseased past cure of physic or sage counsel, is a madness the active soldiers, all whose ends are glory, and that by virtue cowards term as sin, ambition, should not be acquainted with. Although my cares do hang upon my soul like mines of lead, the greatness of my spirit shall shake the sullen weight off. Natural rest is like a wholesome bath to limbs oppressed with gouts and aches, to a troubled mind a most excelling medicine. And I feel a strong propension in my brain to court sleep for its mild physician. Within there, boy!
And enter a page.
Sarah, be sure that none disturb my rest on no occasion. On your life, I charge you.
Shall I sing, sir?
Yes, if the notes be heavy, apt to invite the weary soul to slumbers.
And the page sings a song. We don't have any lyrics here for that. Enter the Duchess.
Who's there? You must not enter.
Must not, sirrah. Where is your lord?
Your pardon, gracious madam. He's laid down to rest, and has upon my life commanded me none should wake him.
Think'st thou he is so much addicted to his ease, he will neglect his business? Go in and tell him the governors of Eggers, Colonel Gordon, and Colonel Leslie are without, upon affairs of consequence.
Would your grace would pardon me, yourself with great safety, might do it, madam.
Foolish boy, go in, I will be thy security.
I shall perform, though most unwillingly, your command. My lord, Wish you to rise, your Duchess.
Ah! Where's my sword? Thou art a coward ghost, and not my son's to take me in my sleep unarmed. My poignard will still be faithful to me. If thou be'st not thin air, its point will graze on thee.
And he stabs the page.
Oh, my lord, what has your fury acted? This your sudden murdering this innocent youth doth add new horrors to your strange cruelties.
Oh, my page? His death was but due justice for his breach of duty, for thus disturbing of my rest.
My lord, your hands are purpled so in innocent blood, tears cannot wash the tincture of. Myself am as deep guilty as you in the slaughter of Isabella. She was innocent. The jewel I accused her of, this morning, grief to my soul I've found, pray heaven. Repentance may expiate our offences.
I begin to feel strange horrors here. My marble soul does strive to sweat itself into a tear at thought of these sad accidents.
Enter Gordon, Butler, Lesle, Newman, Tertski, Kintski.
Noble friends, you're opportunely welcome. I was oppressed with sullen melancholy, but your loved presence expels all thought of it, and I'm grown as full of sprightly mirth as when my hopes aim at a glorious victory.
Mighty Duke, according to my duty, I come here to present you with the keys of Eggers, my place of government, and with them my life to do you service.
Noble Gordon, you do so much endear me by your love, I have no possibility to requite your overflow of courtesies. Have you not received new intelligence of business, which does concern me?
New temptations, sir, against your precious life, 'tis to be feared, lest, seeing we do slack so in performance of what we promised, he'll employ new agents to attempt your ruin. And should treason, as 'tis a subtle serpent, stings unseen, sir, invade your life, to what a dire misfortune were we, whose lives have upon your dependence betrayed, and therefore, good my lord, beware, lest your own courage, which condemns all dangers, do undo you.
Never fear. How far is hence to Edges? Gordon. How far is hence?
Some 3 days easy march.
Set forward thither. It were in vain my enemies swore to fear, when I do carry sharper poniards here.
And they exit, presumably to clear the body. I mean, what I love about this scene is he, not just the random stuff. And he did tell the page, "Don't wake me." I clearly have PTSD. I'm just gonna just leap up and stab you. He did warn him. Okay, I am being very flippant there. I apologise. Anyway, but then the body's lying there, and the others come on, and then just nobody mentions the body. That maybe this happens. Maybe he just turns over a lot of pages every morning. That it's a very disposable alarm clock system that he has here. Maybe the Duchess just chucks a throw over him, like you do when you've got people coming around and you don't have time to properly tidy. Just throws, put on throws. Don't trip over the corpse. Sarah.
I did wonder there for a moment if the Duchess was going to buy it. If she was going to say to him, "Oh, don't be daft, get out of my way," and she was going to go into the tent and he was going to stab her. I mean, clearly he was going to stab someone. But it was the actual page. But yeah, and then there was just this kind of slightly hilarious turnaround as well. And the Duchess says, "Oh, I found my jewel. Isabella was innocent after all." And he's like, "Oh no, my soul's beginning to feel a bit funny now at the thought of these sad accidents." And it's like, dude, there's nothing accidental about it. Even if she had stolen the jewel, you didn't have to string her up right there and then. It's like, oh, these very sad accidents that have occurred. Just made me laugh.
Did she just use the page as a human shield? Did she just know that if she woke him,
she
just basically said, "You do it, because I know, he's got a sword under the pillow.
He's got form."
Yeah. See the top of the ear that I don't have anymore? This happened last week. Aliki.
Normally, a play takes at least a couple of acts, and in many cases, all 5 to get from, the, oh, my power is being taken away to randomly killing everybody I see. This is done in, 3 scenes? 4?
Yeah.
And at the moment, I'm sort of starting to go, okay, he's been a bit sneaky about it, but Leslie's right.
Yeah, totally.
Leslie's right to betray this guy because he's clearly not stable and in charge of a major military position. That's not good. Okay, it's got interestingly extra. I have to say, I've definitely perked up since the bodies started dropping. It's definitely more engaging. I do wonder about Frederick now. Where's he in this? Lynn.
Good question. Yeah, and the whole thing about, oh, and I was mistaken to accuse my waiting gentlewoman of robbing me because it turns out I misplaced the jewel. Like, and now I feel so guilty. That, again, it's just dramaturgically clunky. And I also don't I disapprove of the introduction of that random element. It was just random chance that they had an excuse to execute Isabella for grand theft, because it's really not fate and accidents, as Sarah was saying. It's this guy's messed up personality. I don't want to shift the blame away from Wallenstein and his choices by introducing that sort of accidental element. So, if I were adapting this, I might do something about that whole duel thing.
No, I don't know. I quite like because it's like the Duchess is trying, because she hasn't. I think she found that out earlier, and it's this thing, going, your hands are covered in innocent blood. I'm as guilty. It's like she's trying to, say we're the same. We're both in this bad position. There is something there that kind of works. I agree that it's not fully sketched out, but I don't think it's quite as bad as that. I quite like the randomness of it all, but that's just because I quite like it being a bit random.
Yeah, I'm a little too Aristotelian. I think I might try to change the line to something like, I'm just as guilty as you because I falsely accused her because you put me up to it, and I didn't know you were going to kill her. But now, I'm complicit because I did what you told me to. I would be tempted to do that.
Well, to be fair, she didn't know at that point that her son was in threat of, had been told he had to murder his hoped for. She just comes on. Look, this woman's been thieving. So it's a coincidence. I don't, in that sense. She doesn't quite know he's going to go as far as he does. Why she's still interacting with him, considering that he did kill their son, is I think more of an issue here, actually.
Yeah, why did she just not say, Frederick, we need to get away from your dad. He's having a bad day. We need to get out of here.
Okay, let's get into the Act 5 and see whether that's going to give us some more meat to play with. As we're going to go off and visit the Emperor. Haven't seen the Emperor in a while. Pops in occasionally. Doesn't really interact with the rest of the play in an active way, but occasionally sends messengers. So Act 5, Scene 1. Enter Emperor, Hungary, and Questenburg.
Vexed with so many cares, so many mischiefs, that do like Hydra's dreadful heads increase, by cutting off as billows follow billows, succeed each other with that eager violence, our weary eagles know not where to perch, but flag their sickly wings. Were it not irreligious, I should capitulate with the powers divine and tax them of injustice. My whole reign has been a long and one continued trouble, and if blessed peace with her fair beams did e'er shine on our empire, was but like a fair deceitful wind, courting the ships out of the harbor into the main to drown them. But the mother of a more horrid warfare, that I fear as I found the wreath imperial drowned in blood, so I in blood must leave it.
Have good hope, sir. Tides then approach their full height when their ebb has been at lowest. The most hideous tempests which seemed to threat the ruin of the world, being ushered in by thunder and hot lightning, are soonest past. There's nothing violent can boast of perpetuity. Our fortunes are not so desperate as our fears present them. We've hands and hearts left yet that dare oppose the inhumane traitor, and our cause's justice assures us If we cannot live victorious, we shall die nobly.
Man, my royal father is not himself when he beholds events through the quick perspective of fear, which shows him dangers at remotest distance as clearest, and his most perspicuous objects. Suppose this traitor in his giant reach fathom even heaven itself, yet there are bolts to strike him into earth for his ambition, and make his memory and name, all, save his treason, forever to be forgotten.
That which most doth drive my tortured soul into affrights is that I see we're false among ourselves. The faithless soldiers daily do in troops fly from our ensigns to the traitors' camp. What cause have we then but to expect a sad ruin? When those who should be our security do prove our greatest enemies, our guard, our fear and terror, they all look on him as superstitious Indians on the sun, with adoration, on me with contempt, or but at best with pity.
Mighty Caesar, to doubt an ill before it falls upon us, amongst valiant and resolved souls, is counted a point of cowardice. Great spirits ever should be above their fates, good sir. Retreat into that fortress of your mind, your resolution. Call it up to guard your soul from timorous thoughts. Are you the man have swayed the Roman Empire 24 years with that success against your foreign foes, your very name, more than your forces vanquished, to let a traitor fright you? Good my lord, let's draw forth new battles to the field, awake the drum and trumpet, summon up the very last hopes of our weakened strength against this insulting traitor. Very infants will on the sudden grow up able men and fight in this brave quarrel.
Heaven itself will arm our side, and with certain vengeance pursue the inhumane monster. Why, to die, as that's the worst can happen, in this cause were a religious martyrdom. I am your son, sir, and what your fortunes are, good or disastrous, mine has on them dependence. By my hopes I do so little weigh the glorious traitor's pride, I think him worthy scarce my meanest thought. And rest assured, ere long I shall behold this fearful meteor that would be a star and does affright us with his hideous blaze, like a vain comet, drop his fading rays.
Your comforts come as in droughts the elemental dew does on the earth. It wets but leaves no moisture to give the seared plants growth. But yesternight we'd certain information that our forces led by Matthias Gallus were o'erthrown by Saxon Weimar and his son young Frederick, who had they known as well how to pursue as gain a victory, and made a sudden onslaught upon Vienna, theirs, not ours, had been the wreath imperial.
Enter messenger.
Now your news, sir.
Letters from Colonel Leslie, sir, from Eggers.
This is our latest hope. He writes me word that the arch-traitor and his prime confederates last night arrived at Eggers, and assures me of their immediate ruin. Well, Colossus, you'd best stand firm, unshaken as a rock, whose feet the fierce waves striving to trip up do against its hard hoofs dash themselves to pieces, or thou wilt fall unpitied, fall to be the scorn of story, the contempt and byword to all posterity. Let's in, my lords. This law the heavens inviolably keeps, their justice well may slumber, but ne'er sleep.
And they exit. And once again, we have a scene that sort of tells us mostly what we already know. There's a few updates. And sort of reiterates points that we've already been at. I spend an awful long time explaining stuff that we already know. So, yeah, again, this play keeps doing that. It keeps doing that again and again and again. Aliki.
And we have these scenes like this one where basically nothing happens. No one is changed by anybody else's words. And then you have scenes where everything happens in sort of 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's really odd. And it's like he doesn't know what to do with the Emperor, because the Emperor is there to obviously be, what everyone's reacting from, and he employs some people. And they sort of have a little debate. And it's nice we get this little name check that, Weimar and young Frederick, they're out doing stuff. And Matthias Gallus, they're out doing some stuff. That's nice. And they know that, so, I mean, it's fine to pop in and say hi, but it's about twice as long a scene as it needs to be, really. I mean, it's not a desperately long scene as it is, but it's, yeah. And things.
Well, maybe it's an opportunity to show off your fancy costumes.
It possibly is that. I think the court is probably quite flamboyant. I think that because there's definitely a theme earlier on in the play that if Wallenstein is the martial figure and they're all sort of camp followers and they're all soldiers or people used to being in the soldier's life, and the emperor's court is really much more about finery and politics. Because during the emperor's first scene, he's sort of gone, oh, he's up rebelling. We're not very good at fighting, are we? We sort of let him do the fighting. Bugger. Sort of the way it sort of flowed. So I'd go with that. Let's see the costumes. Other thoughts? Lynn?
We do learn one important thing, that that the field marshal, who is now the general, Matthias Gallus, was defeated by the empire's enemies, and the emperor says, and it could have been worse. They could probably have pursued them all the way to Vienna and deposed me. So that's going really badly for the emperor. And Gallus said, Wallenstein has experienced, battle-hardened, loyal soldiers. I could recruit a bigger army, but I'm not optimistic about their chances against him because they'd be raw recruits. But at first the emperor says, oh yeah, you got a good point. We'll go about it more sneakily. But then somehow that objection just disappears and they decide to do battle against Gallus's wise advice, and it goes badly. So that's something we learn. That's important.
Other thoughts before we go into what looks to be the final scene? Who's going to survive? Who's gonna die? And let's see where it goes. So Act 5, Scene 2, Ultima. Enter Wallenstein, Tertski, Kintski, Illawe, Newman, Lesle, Butler, Gordon. You're probably going to talk to yourselves at least once. Have fun.
The honour you have done us, mighty Duke, by this your gracious presence, gives a period to our ambition. Eggers is grown proud, dares with Vienna stand in competition, which is the capital city, which does hold the true and lawful Caesar.
Ferdinand, had he arrived here in his greatest glory, could not be more welcome. While I am governor of this town, it and my life are at your service.
Noble gentleman, you do so load me with new courtesies I know not first for which to give you thanks. And did a sullen humour not possess my much distempered faculties, my mirth should speak my gratitude. But on the sudden, I am so overburdened with sad thoughts, I cannot suit my mind, so much oppressed to jollity.
'Tis our general grief, for should disturb your quiet here, when we were all composed of triumph, for the joy we do conceive for your arrival. My noble lord of Tertski, these are the welcomes, full bowls of sprightly wine that soldiers use in entertainment, to our general's health, and to his good recovery from his melancholy.
Who shall refuse to pledge it with that zeal he would drink healthful potions, may it be a deadly poison to him? Colonel Gordon?
May he dry for drought like a Westphalia pig in the dog days, or be choked with eating toasted cheese.
My lord of Kintski, this to our general's health, and welcome hither.
I'm like to faint for thirst. Would 'twould arrive at me once, my mouth even waters at it.
Noble Butler.
Marshal Illawe. I shall be last, I see, but if the stoops hold out 'tis 10-1, I'll have my share.
Here, Colonel Newman.
And 'twere the ton of Heidelberg, I'd drink it off with as much ease as a leaguer can in a grim sutler's house of thatch. My lord, under your gracious pardon, take me off this lusty rouse to your own health, and after begin as much to each of ours, and if it do not make you as merry as a corporal upon payday, I say I'm no Asclepius, but a mere mountebank in the effects of sprightly wine.
Kind gentlemen, my thanks to all of you, and would my disposition afford me license, I should not forget the soldier's ceremony. To begin each of your happy wishes, howsoever, I will trench so far on my melancholy to drink this cup. To all your healths.
Your Grace
Your
has
Grace
shown
has
us
shown
to
us
an
to
all too
Notice
excessive
excessive
courtesy.
courtesy.
I'll only repose a little, and if I find my sad distemper alter, I'll return and frolic in your company.
I smell him. He has a plot upon us. He'll steal Henson, shift a score or two of cups, and then set fresh upon us, make us all as drunk as rats in the canaries.
We'll attend, Your Grace.
By no means. Let not my melancholy discompose your thoughts of frolic mirth. As Colonel Newman will in my absence take a cup or two for me. Meantime, be merry, 'tis my charge. Remember to observe it.
Exit Wallenstein.
I'm sorry he should be thus distempered here. My lord, let not our general's sadness rob us of our late intended jollity. Colonel Newman, you'll want to be all air. I hope you are not turned earthward, sir.
No faith, thank heaven, I feel no inclination that savours of mortality. Gentlemen, shall have a catch.
With all our hearts, good colonel.
A military madrigal. I learned it of a right imp of Mars, a red-faced sergeant at Hubblestadt.
Will you begin?
Yes, verily, but good colonel, let not your voice rebel, nor be exalted into a Caledonia tune. 'Twill spoil our ditty.
Sings a catch. We don't know what it is.
My thanks. My lords, please you this cup to the happy nuptials twixt young Frederick and the fair Amelia.
Beggars will be honored to have them celebrated here.
Do me right good, colonel. You drink it as 'twere scarbeer.
Captain Butler?
No whispering, good Colonel Leslie, no whispering. You know what follows. But drink off your cup like a right cavalier. This nectar wine has a strange virtue in it. It elevates both flesh and spirit. Month's means for a wench now.
My lord, I am so far from giving you a fit requital to your late courtesies that, as satisfaction, I must beg a new favour. 1 cup more. Let's all together drink a full carouse unto our general's health and his revenge upon the emperor. You shall drink no more. Shall be your last cup. Trust me.
I shall drink no more. Mark that. Pray fill up mine till it run o'er. I'd be loath to have my last cup faulty.
To his revenge.
Enter 4 soldiers with pistols as they are drinking. They shoot Tertski, Kintski, Illawe, and Newman, who fall. Who's Tertski?
Oh, inhospitable slave, traitor!
Tertski dies.
I'm something hot about the heart. A cup of your small wine to cool me, sure. You grudged my liquor, and so broached me behind to let out what I had put in before. Box of your pellets, say I care not for any other hurt they have done me, but that they have spoiled my drinking.
Newman dies.
Oh, this was well performed. Drag in their bodies. Now, countrymen, our task is half performed. We have lopped off the main arms that did grow under this lofty cedar. There remains naught but the trunk to cut from earth, and that shall by our own hands fall. These slaves shall not have so much honour done them as to triumph in our great general's slaughter. As great Julius fell by his much-loved Brutus, who, when justice and his dear mother's cause the Commonwealth commanded him to strike, with one home blow, finished brave Caesar's life, so he, by us, shall surely perish. Friendship must not save him and his foul ambition from one grave.
And they exit, and I suspect that speech was as long as it was, whereas they're all busy dragging bodies off stage. So Newman died. They killed the clown, and the clown got a really good death speech. Actually, I really like that. If I'm leaking, I can't hold the wine. Yeah, you could just see him crawling, trying to get to the bottle, just at the end there, and they've ruined his drinking. So that's nice. Tertski only gets 3 words as a dying thing, but Newman gets several, and Illawe or however their name is pronounced, continues to basically say nothing in the play. So I would actually quite like him to have the longest death speech, because he hasn't said almost anything in the entire length of the play. They're just really a supernumerary standing about. So yeah, we've got this deliberate bit of frivolity set up to get everyone drunk enough so you can murder them. Which is a not unknown story going back into Amleth and other things. You want to assassinate a lot of people. Get them drunk first. It's a really good way of doing it. Very effective. There's a bit of a song as well. I'd really like to know what the catch was, because I'd hope for something nicely ironic there. Something that would speak to the moment. But of course, Wallenstein's sad. Poor Wallenstein, he's so sad that he murdered people. So he's sad. He's got distemper. So off to the vet for him. Yeah, any thoughts before we go into the very final moment? I have paused mid-scene because I just wanted to take in those deaths and give them a moment. Any thoughts?
It's interesting that they bring firearms into it.
Hmm.
Those are loud. You would think that would not be a very subtle way of doing that. So
yeah, that's true. They could just stab him, couldn't they? But no, they shoot him. It's yeah.
And the conspirators don't do it themselves. There's these anonymous soldiers who come in.
Mm.
Yeah. So,
who they presumably will kill off later. Yeah. So that.
Yeah, you know what to make of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the fact that, I say Leslie's speech there just seemed to be just clear the bodies speech. Because, is anyone really buying this is just like Caesar and going, no, it's not.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be just like Caesar because you know what happened to those guys.
Yeah. So yeah, he's sort of marking time, I feel there. Okay, any other thoughts before we go into the final short bit? Carolyn?
I did actually really like that line. No, it's the last drink, I promise. That was clever. I thought that was quite clever. And I think with the pistols thing, I'm sure there have been plenty of stabbings on stage, so shootings might have, especially if this is going later in the period, it would have been much more exciting.
Vary the texture.
Yeah.
Little special effects on stage.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it's a full-on gunfight. Maybe they knock over a barrel and they're shooting back, and it goes all OK Corral on us, and someone climbs up to a great height, chute has to fall, from the balcony. The barman ducks behind the, yeah, we should add a barman to this scene. It needs a barman.
Anyone, but
okay, so they're all dead. They've all left the stage. Wallenstein enters.
Sure, I beheld them. All the air condensed into their lively figures, in their shrouds, pale and as meagre as they had conversed a year with the inhabitants of the earth and drunk the dew of charnel houses, showed Albertus and his lovely bride. They waved their ghastly hands to me, as if in that dumb language they'd invited me to come and visit them in their cold urns. To die? Why, it's man's nature, not his punishment. With this condition we all enter life. To put it off again, 'tis but a garment, and cannot last for ever. Both its fashion and stuff will soon wear out. Why then should death, if I were now creeping into my marble, to me be terrible? Since 'tis man's folly to fear that which we can no way can avoid. Nor is't much matter how we die, by force or naturally chequered with grisly wounds, or in our beds. 'Tis all's but the same, death still. Oh, but to die surcharged with mortal sins, such as can kill our everlasting beings, our souls, and send them hence to bathe in floods of living fire? There! That's the frightful mischief. The other's but a trifle. I, who never could fear the other, at the thought of this am one with death already. My vast crimes, my horrid murders kill that conscience in me, which makes me know my guilt, that conscience, which as my shadow follows me.
Enter Leslie Gordon, Butler.
Come softly, and if my stroke miss, second me.
Stabs Wallenstein in the back.
Ah! 'Twas no ghost. That was a mortal touch. It came so home and heavily. Oh, base traitor, whoe'er thou art! Thou dost not see my face. My looks would even have blasted thee. Ha! Leslie? Gordon? Butler.
Yes, traitor Duke, 'twas we who out thy soul from thy weak twist of life. We who glory more in performing this brave act of justice than had we gained the empire thy ambition aspired to. Thy base treacheries to Caesar are by us revenged.
The counts, thy bold Confederate rebels, by our hands sent to their ruin.
Thus, coward hare, prey on a dying lion. For thee, Leslie, basely perfidious to me in thy faith, receive my last breath in a curse. You have but played the hangman to perform heaven's justice. Forgive me, heaven, my past offence. I die, not for my ambition, but my cruelty.
And Wallenstein dies.
Let us convey the body in and post with all speed to Vienna and give notice to the Emperor of our proceedings. Thus every traitor shall, instead of a crown, meet his own funeral.
And exit there. So Wallenstein does learn a lesson by the end that, you know, it's not because he was ambitious, it was because he was a git, which ironically isn't actually why they killed him, but it's there's there. So yeah, he gets a really good death scene, actually, more than in a sense the character deserves, but there's some good stuff in there. There's a stabbing in the back, and then he turns around and Leslie! I mean, Leslie is not a great name for that moment. It needs something with a bit more weight to it. It just slightly... Leslie is a name for a romantic comedy. I'm sorry. It's not a tragic name. But I do love the fact he turns around and goes, "But you were my friends." Aliki.
I mean, what a great death speech he gets and death moment. And then Leslie is like, "Oh yeah, that's what you get when you're a traitor. You're a traitor. You were totally Christmas, Tim." Anyway, but whatever. It was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah, on the one hand, the scene really is good. That's a very good death speech where he's like, yeah, you know, life is temporary. We know that most of our lives, we're conscious of the fact that we die. I've risked my life dozens of times on the battlefield, and it never bothered me. But I've done some bad shit, and I might go to hell, and I'm kind of worried about that. And then when his last words are, "Forgive me, heaven, for my past offense." So we don't really know, you know, if we accept, you know, the Christian worldview that was prevalent when this was written, does his soul go to heaven or hell? I think that's a really nice touch, that he is conscious of his guilt, but has he done enough to expiate it? Is, I think, left unanswered. And I think that's really very effective. But still, it's just like, okay, he's dead, we're leaving now. It's a little like, what? Wait, what? We're done? What? And we don't know what happens to the conspirators. We don't know what happens to Frederick. We don't know what, like, does Frederick take up the war with the Empire, or does he go, oh, that was my dad, I never really liked him. Yeah, I don't want to be general. Field Marshal Gallus can be general. I'm cool. Like, we don't really know how the political situation resolves itself. So I find that a little unsatisfying.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. We don't hear about what do they you mentioned earlier. Do they take out the Duchess? Do they take out? They're just taking out him and his immediate guard, because in a sense that's all the Emperor wants. I mean, you think if they are serving the Emperor rather than and the Emperor just wants. The Emperor doesn't see anything dynastic about him. He's not a dynasty in the same way as if they were taking out the Emperor, because then you want to take out the children there. That's what you do. You take out the line. But here he's been raised in status. He doesn't he's quite disposable in that sense, that the Duchess and to a degree his son will be neutralized just simply by, they don't really have any power except the army that they walk with, or the stuff that the Emperor gives them. I mean, I'm assuming on that sense, any lands they've got are effectively entirely down to the Emperor. So in that sense, that's sort of implicit rather than explicit. But yeah, it is something that possibly you do get the impression that the leading actor of the company at the time just said, right, so Glapthorne, this is what I need. I need a really good death speech. I need to go bit mad, not too much mad. I don't think I do really big mad. I do a little bit of mad. I need to kill a few people. That'd be nice. But also, could I have some noble stuff earlier on? So there's a bit of a journey. And Glapthorne, I don't think he's interested in journey. I don't feel that the characters progress. They seem, because they're so thinly drawn and are always reacting to what the play wants them to do, that they don't really have a progression in that sense. They sort of just do thing, and that thing may be quite radically different, which is where we're leaning more towards. And this isn't an insult, but more, is just a genre designation. This is much more in the realm of melodrama, in the sense that people have an intention, they know exactly what they're doing, except when they immediately change direction and do something else, and they believe in that intention absolutely for the moment that they're living in, but there is no transition, there is no growth in that way. It's just a very tramline directional thing. But yeah, he writes really good effect. He writes for effect, and when he writes a good effect, it works really well. So there are some great scenes, there are some great speeches, but he's not really interested in some of the other stuff that holds the whole play overall together. If we could, and I am waiting for someone to wave, but if we could combine the dramaturgy of William Percy, who can structure a play but can't write for toffee apart from occasionally good lines, with this person who can actually write quite nice flowing dialogue, and really good effects and really good sort of moments, sort of squodge them together, then I think you might get a better play. I'm quite interested in what some writers are really good at some things. They're rarely good at everything, and this one, until we read more of Glapthorne's plays, there are more to come. It'd be interesting to see what else he gives us, because is this just a one-off? Is this play damaged? Is it supposed to be twice as long? It is quite short. We're doing it in 2 sessions, so has it been cut? Is that why it doesn't fully satisfy? I don't think it is. It feels like it's largely complete, but maybe it is. Lynn, then Sarah, thank you for waiting.
I sympathize with your wish, Rob, but neither Percy nor Glapthorne are writing anymore.
No, they are both dead. They've gone away.
So yeah, like how do you do this? Do you try to signal with a good actor, which I think one could, in the beginning, that Wallenstein's a little off, that the Emperor is not wrong by decommissioning him, by forcing his retirement. But yeah, he's been effective, but he's a bit of a loose cannon. and he's getting maybe a little big for his boots, and it's time to force his retirement. So can we have an actor someone signal that in the performance of the earlier scenes that yeah, he seems a little off, and then by the end you're like, oh yeah, this is sort of unexpected but sort of inevitable, because when you think back, it's like, yeah, he was a little loony even in the beginning. Would you want to do that, or would you want it just to be like this scene and this scene and this scene, and like throwing motivation out the window is part of the effect you want?
I don't know. I think it's reasonable to ask the actor to do some sort of progression. I mean, I think the amount of sketching in you do for the actor, it depends on how long the run is as well, because, you know, the actor's got to keep their sanity somehow. This is why I said last time, this feels like something you just sort of throw at actors, and, you know, and they just go for it, and you don't necessarily give to, and you just see if it works, because I'm not really moving that far away from this. I think if we spent a lot of time digging into the characters, that we will just find there isn't anything there. And it's that. And there's part of me thinking the ideal casting for this is the original Captain Pugwash. So everybody's cardboard cutouts, and they sort of move along and they do things, and it's all quite charming until they go homicidal, and then it gets really disturbing. And I kind of actually would like to do it that way. I'm kind of now thinking that we get some actors, we record the audio, and then we just film a series of moving cardboard cutouts, because, you know, I think we could actually budget that and do it, because, you know, there's a reason why they did it that way in the 70s. It was cheap. Yeah, okay, that's my slightly crazy thought. And I'm so yeah,
South Park animation.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Sarah.
Yeah, well, I'm massively into paper theatres, so I could totally see that working. I mean, I was saying this in the chat earlier. It's like, I think the only way to do this is to send it up. Like, and yeah, do it with cardboard cutouts as a sort of, comment on the quality of the writing. I mean, I don't know if this was maybe his first play, or maybe he just didn't think about interiority. I don't really know. But what I do like about this is it has a kind of crappy MI5 thriller quality to it. You know, it's like with Leslie especially, like, and Leslie weirdly turns out to be the hero, doesn't he? Which, like, frankly, I was not expecting. And so there's this, you know, you could do it, you could kind of lean into that and, you know, have the moody music and the close-up shots of your paper cutout, you know, of Leslie's face, and it's like, is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? Should we be on his side? Should we not be on his side? Oh, here's Wallenstein. He seems like a nice bloke, but is he really? Dun dun dun! Big twist. Oh my God! There's blood everywhere. The end. You know, it's like it could almost be a Netflix drama. You know, like, and I'm wondering if maybe that was kind of, he was the Netflix drama writer of his day. You know, he was maybe it was his first play and he was learning his craft, but maybe he was just churning them out and not being paid very much, you know. And like you say, the actors want this and the audience wants this, and he puts it all together and here you go. In which case, you know, you can do something quite fun with it, I think.
I think Netflix is really, you know, modern television. You know, there's an awful lot of really slick dramas out there on things like Netflix, etc. That are you can see the money on the screen, and you're sort of going with it. And there comes a point about halfway through, and you're going, "Is this actually good, or is it just really well made?"
And
because there is a difference, and there's an element that if you put, you know, loads of money and filmed this really slickly, that nobody would notice until the very end that I don't think this is actually very good. I mean, I'm enjoying it, but it's everything else. And the thing is, I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed this. I have massive problems with it, but I also think you could just throw it on and hope for the best, and that's sort of what the text wants you to do. I could be wrong. I don't know. Lynn.
Okay, so I was just thinking as we were talking, you know, this would actually make a really useful teaching text. The verse is, sometimes the syntax gets a little hard to follow, but generally you can parse it. It's got some great imagery, maybe not particularly original, but I think it's good examples of how metaphor and conceit were used in the period. So if you were teaching a class about the form of early modern drama, I think this would be a really accessible text to young people. And then I thought, oh no, this is my fantasy. You teach a class, young undergrads, maybe, I don't know what the equivalent in the UK would be, high school seniors, 17 and 18-year-olds. And you make a whole semester of putting on Wallenstein. And you study the text and you talk a little bit about history. They talk about the 30 Years' War to give them some background as you're rehearsing the play. And then you have your young people present it. I'm not sure what you would do about the costumes. Maybe we just do it in modern dress and with the equivalent of just like over the top designer suits in the court and whatever. But I think young people would really have a blast with this. And it could also, you could smuggle in some real serious learning about history and about the history of drama while you were teaching it / producing it. So that's my new fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it reminds me also of the Fair Maid of Bristow, which is a play which is incredibly short and feels like it's just bullet points at times. And it's really quite fun, but almost everybody just is wheeled on cardboard cutouts. It's like they just come in, I am here, I don't like you, I will fight you, I have fought you, I have now gone. And there's almost just like a slightly more expanded version of that kind of playwriting, and I'm quite interested in that. Anyway, we need to get to final thoughts. I'm going to go to Carolyn first, as you need to nip away. You haven't caught the whole play, you've only caught the end of the play. Any final thoughts about our emphasis is usually, I'll say, on how we might stage it, what we might do with it. We've sort of already been bouncing ideas around, but any final thoughts about the text?
No, I enjoyed it. I did think that Wallenstein came off very well in the end. I actually really did enjoy that last speech. I am not an expert in these matters, so I defer to those of you who are, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, it's all right. We're not experts. We just read a lot of plays.
I really did enjoy the blow-by-blow dissection. That was actually quite a trip.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've talked a lot already. I'm kind of glad and kind of not that we did this a little bit out of chronological order. It's quite late in the period that we are committed to cover. So there's a gap chronologically between what we've done in recent weeks and this. So, but it's interesting to kind of see where the drama is headed. In many ways, it's unlike anything that we've read so far. In some ways, it's definitely got references to its predecessors, but it just feels different from the late 16th century and the early 17th century. I mean, this is not, Edward the Fourth, and this is not Women Beware Women. It's so different. So now I'm really intrigued about the surviving texts that we have that intervene between the 1610s and the 1620s and 30s. Because I kind of don't know quite how to engage with it. Its form was kind of unexpected and felt a little unfamiliar. Although I think like once you got into it with a bunch of actors who were just ready to have fun, it could be just really fun to produce and perform.
Aliki, any final thoughts?
I'm just utterly persuaded by the paper theater that you and Sarah have come up between you, and I think we should do it.
Okay. Well, we'll do the audio first, and then we'll record the visuals after. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I must admit that one bit that I've got trouble with is, and we've had some discussion on this in the chat, is the motivation of the Duchess, if indeed she can be said to have it. My gut feeling is that she's lost something because she's basically careless. And, I'll just blame a lower caste character and gets away with it. which always worries me somewhat. That ethos does come through quite a lot of the plays we dealt with, basically through the whole of the century that we've been dealing with.
But in this case, the Duchess does at least admit that she did it.
But no consequence.
Well, we don't. We don't.
No,
everybody dies.
Yeah, well, everybody dies eventually, but it would be nice to see her see some of the other upper class characters get a comeuppance as well.
Sarah, any final thoughts?
Really, you've pretty much had mine. I'm going to start collecting cereal boxes for making the theatre frame, the proscenium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Popsicle sticks, right?
Yeah. We'll definitely, we're going to look into that because, that's doable. That's very doable. Lynn.
Does anybody besides me know Scottish falsetto sock puppets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sock puppets is another alternative. Especially if we want to do a more alive show, then we could go in that direction rather than just videos. Okay. Any other thoughts in the room? Otherwise, I will close the session. Well, all that remains after that look is come back to this play again for a second look at some point, maybe sooner rather than later because it doesn't have a massive cast and it's quite short. That's the way our ordering system works for plays we return to. All that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Leap, your neat chambermaid, and get a monkey.